Am I the a-hole for giving my wife an ultimatum? I, 35 Mellors, have been married to my wife, 37 Puffs, for 7 years, and we were together another 3 before that. We had a daughter, we're 5 Fowler. On the outside, our marriage appears to be perfect. She and I own a nice house with a good school district, have a great kid, and both work full-time. Her job requires her to do some travel and wants her in the office 3 days a week. My job does not pay as well, but I work completely remote and spend a lot of time talking my daughter to soccer or doctor's appointments, as well as keeping up around the house. Before anyone asks, this is not a weight gain issue. I am active and fit, and my wife is the same. For the past 4 or so years, my wife has shown basically no interest in our marriage and acts more like my roommate than partner. We have basically no romance or intimacy. When I say intimacy, I know some people will jump to sex, but to me, intimacy means acting like a couple. Hand-holding, kisses, cuddling, and obviously sex. None of those are really things my wife wants to do, and makes it painfully obvious that she isn't interested. Before, she and I were very much an amazing couple. My wife also shows no interest in my life. She has forgotten important events like our anniversary and my birthday. Our last anniversary, she said she needed to cancel the dinner plans I made for the 2 of us because she had to work late on a Friday and travel for work the following week. I brought this up to my therapist, who suggested couples therapy and is willing to give some recommendations. I brought this up to my wife, who immediately shut it down, saying, "There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need therapy." I have made multiple suggestions to her for how we can possibly improve our relationship. Family vacation? Our daughter won't appreciate it. I don't see what 5-year-old wouldn't want to go to the beach for a couple days. But maybe I'm wrong. A romantic getaway for just her and I? No, I'm too busy at work. Or can't we just spend time together at home? Taking our daughter on a bike ride and going out to lunch on a weekend? I want to just relax. So I gave up trying to initiate anything with her and recently began looking for an out. I watched my parents in a failing marriage for a decade and don't want to put my child through that. I talked to a lawyer and got papers ready and can buy a condo in town to keep our daughter in the same school district with her friends, since I can't afford our house by myself. I recently confronted my wife when our daughter was at a play date. I told her that I am seriously considering leaving her, since I feel as though I don't matter to her and our relationship is never a priority to her. I told her I have an exit plan, and if she doesn't make changes by the new year, I am going to file for divorce in full custody. She and I got into a big fight where she basically told me I was manipulative and an asshole for blindsiding her like that. I told her that none of this would be an issue if she cared about us, or at least pretended to. I told her I don't want our daughter to see how unhealthy our relationship is. All of this happened yesterday. So Reddit AITAH for what I said to my wife and our argument after. I have brought up my concerns about our marriage to her multiple times. Things usually improve for a short while, but are quickly back to the status quo in a week or 2.
Am I the a-hole for sleeping with my ex-husband? I, 30F, married my ex-husband Ryan, 30 Mellors, very young. We were 20 when we got married, and we were together since 14. We divorced 2 years ago because we faced fertility issues, and I got depressed, and no amount of counseling helped us. I made our lives pretty miserable, so I decided it's time for a divorce. After the divorce, we kept in touch. He was always checking in. He was worried about my mental health, but I was doing better. The constant reminder that I'm letting him down, that my body can't give him a child, was gone. Although that was always only in my head, because he never made me feel that way. My close friend got wind of this and pushed to cut all contact, that it's not healthy and this way we won't be able to move on. But the thing is, Ryan was also my best friend, and I missed him. On her insistence, I wrote Ryan that we shouldn't keep in touch anymore. He was upset but said he understood. There was no contact between us for almost a year, but I run into him in a grocery store. When he spotted me, a huge smile lit up his face, and he rushed to me and gave me the biggest bear hug. It felt really great. We chatted for a bit, and he asked to get coffee with him, and I agreed. Ryan asked me how I'm doing, that he was worried about me this whole time, but he respected that I don't want to speak to him, so he didn't reach out. I told him that I'm doing great, that I really needed this time to focus only on myself, that I learned to accept that motherhood is not in the cards for me. He was also attending therapy because he struggled without me, but also made peace that in order for me to get better, he needed to let me go. We decided we will check with our therapists if they think it's a good idea to keep in touch. My therapist said that if I didn't have any negative feelings while being with Ryan, she doesn't see a reason why we couldn't keep in touch. His therapist said the same thing, but we should be careful and communicate well, so we don't lose the progress we both made. So we started to hang out occasionally, and it was great. It felt good to have him back in my life without any pressure. Months after hanging out, we were watching a movie at my place, and he kissed me and I kissed him back. We slept together that night. When we woke up, we talked what this means, and we decided we won't put any pressure on us and just do what feels good. So we kept meeting. We talked a lot about everything, our expectations in life. We also talked about reconciliation, but mostly we had fun and enjoyed each other. One of our mutual friends saw us holding hands in town, and he told our whole friend group. My friend who advised me to cut contact with Ryan came that evening to my place and started yelling at me that I'm ruining Ryan's life, that this way he will never move on. She asked if I'm sleeping with him. When I replied replied yes. She told me to leave him alone and stop being a sleefish. I tried to reason with her, but she just told me to shut up and left. I called Ryan right after she left and told him what happened and asked him if he wanted to move on. He said that absolutely not, that we are not hurting anyone. There are no ex-partners, no children involved, and we both made a huge progress, and if we want to be together, it's nobody's business. So now I'm not sure if I'm doing something wrong. If she is right, and it would be the best if I let Ryan move on with someone else. Update. As many of you asked why I divorced Ryan, I thought I will give you an explanation. We struggled with fertility for 5 years. After 2 rounds of failed IVF, we checked our options to adopt. We had a mortgage, student loans, and loans, which we took out for the IVF, so we were not good candidates for adoption. Every month when I got my period, I had a mental breakdown, and Ryan suffered because he didn't know how to help me. We went to couples therapy for 2 years, but it didn't help. I was obsessive with my behavior, and Ryan was afraid to touch me anymore because any intimacy meant hope. All the joy from our lives was gone, and I decided to end our misery. We loved each other still, but when your mind is against you, sometimes you need to do something drastic to get better. Now we are both happy again and enjoying life without any pressure. And as we both concentrated on our careers in the last 2 years, we are also financially much better. So maybe one day we will have a chance to adopt. But if not, I will be happy anyway with only Ryan by my side. As for my friend, I sent her a message that I'm willing to give her a chance to explain herself, but if she is not interested, I will be cutting her out of my life. So far, she didn't reply. Am I the a-hole? My husband said it's my fault. My 37 Melem husband and I, 35 F, have been married for 9 years with 2 children, 5 F and 8 Miem. Before we got married, we had a conversation about what we wanted from each other and what some of our main goals were. 2 of our biggest goals were. He wanted a stay-at-home wife when we had children, and I wanted a small homestead. He never wanted me to work, and I agreed, and he agreed we could have a small homestead. I used my saving to buy our house, which had 5 acres of land on it, so we wouldn't have to rent as he didn't have anything saved up at that time. Keep that in mind because it will come up later. I had also bought all kinds of seeds to plant and chickens. After about 3 months, I became pregnant with our son, and everything seemed wonderful. Fast forward 4 years later, and I'm pregnant with our daughter, and I'm selling our vegetables and flowers, eggs, etc. from our homestead, and began to make some cash on the side. My husband thought it was great and would make jokes about how now he could relax. After I had our daughter, he started complaining about how he wanted to be home more, to spend time with us, and help with the homestead. So I suggested he work part-time. He worked part-time for 2 years and then quit his job altogether. But the second year, he barely helped me with our homestead and instead played a lot of video games, which was fine. I was used to doing the homestead on my own, and he still worked part-time, so it wasn't a big deal at the time. He then quits his job and for 1 year does nothing. We argued almost every day. He drank almost every day and did nothing but play video games and have bonfires with his friends on our property for an entire year. I've worked hard to get our land where it needed to be and have started a flower business and beekeeping for honey, which has been going strong for the past year, which has made us more money and is the biggest reason why he completely quit his. At this point, we have been married for 7 years. I ended up sitting down with him and having a conversation on why he doesn't help me and his behavior of drinking every day, but he said he was just taking a break and that I owed him for all the times he paid the bills, and I was at home apparently living it up. I explained to him that even though I didn't work, I still contributed to our home. He had a home-cooked meal almost every day, and I worked hard on the land and in home, plus took care of our children and bought our house, so it wasn't as if I did nothing. He became irate with me. Fast forward another year, and he's doing the same stuff, only his best friend from multiple states away calls him and tells him he's moving 20 minutes away from us. His friend starts coming over almost every day, only he starts talking to my husband about his behavior, and my husband starts hearing his best friend compliment me on our garden and flowers, etc. And my husband begins getting irritated over it, and when his friend isn't around, he mocks him in front of me and starts accusing me of liking him. I told him that it seemed as he was projecting his own feelings, as he's done nothing for this family for the past 2 years, and that I've never cheated on him. And if he didn't want his friend over, then he should talk to him about it. He said no, and that it was my fault. Fast forward 4 months. It's been 9 years now, and I'm at the end of my rope. I've watched the person I love become an alcoholic. His friends and family have tried talking with him, and he absolutely hates me and feels I've ruined his life. He calls me his goody two-shoe wife, and until now I haven't given up on him, but I just can't keep going like this. His best friend made a pass at me and told me he would take care of me, and that my husband has turned into a bum. I told him no, and that even if I divorced him, that I would never turn around and date his friend, in which I told my husband about. A few nights ago, my husband had a bonfire party, as it was his birthday. He got wasted, and I caught him kissing one of his other friends' wives, and his best friend and him got into a physical fight over it. His best friend told him he wasn't man enough for me, and they fought again. My husband began yelling at me and called me his perfect goody two-shoe wife with her perfect sourdough bread and her perfect this and perfect that. I explained to him that I'm not perfect, and I don't understand why he says this. He screamed at me and told me every everything was my fault and that I ruin everything. He made such a huge scene with all of our friends there, and I had made him a homemade carrot cake, as it was his favorite, and he smashed it. After the party was over, he ended up waking our son with his yelling, and our son came up to him and yelled at him to stop, but my husband wouldn't. I tried calming my husband down and telling him to stop yelling in front of our child and to open his eyes, thinking that would get him to stop, and my son looked at him and yelled he hated him to him. My husband became quiet and looked down at him, and then looked at me, and then said I was now turning his own son against him. I put him back in bed and told him that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, but that everything was going to be okay, and I cuddled with him until he fell asleep. My husband argued with me some more, said I emasculated him, and passed out on our kitchen floor. All I've tried to do is my best. I don't drink alcohol. I dress modestly. I cook and clean, and I'm called a goody two-shoes by my husband. And for some reason, I feel bad about it. I feel like it's my fault. Maybe I should have told him no years ago when he wanted to stop working, but he's a grown man. I don't know what to do or how to go further, but I can't keep living like this, and I can't make him do anything. Am I a stick in the mud and not fun anymore? I don't know, and he's got me looking in the mirror. Maybe I'm too serious. Our kids are noticing now, and they can't start thinking this is normal because it's not. I don't even know who he is anymore. Did me making money from our homestead emasculate him? Am I going to turn into a statistic single mom now? Probably. It sucks because no one wants their family apart, but I feel there isn't anything else I can do, and I feel therapy will be needed afterwards because I'm doubting myself. This morning, he left to one of his friends' houses and said that if I tried divorcing him, that no one would want me, and that he would take half of everything, and that I would be forced to sell our home and business. But we signed a prenup, and I think he forgot about that. But still, who says that to the person they love? I feel so depleted. I was able to set up an intervention with close friends and family. I took my kids to my mom's for the night so they would be safe. The friend he was with thankfully went with it and brought him home. And when he realized it wasn't a party and an intervention, he became angry. I ended up calling the police, and because we live in Florida, I was able to have him Baker acted. The police officer said the facility would hold him for at least 72 hours, and I was able to talk with my lawyer and get the divorce papers going. I hope he wakes up so that he can at least be in his kids' lives, but he will have to get sober first. Thanks again for everyone that commented.